Be on guard.
Allow me a moment to entertain you.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another Mish-Mashing Battle Lounge with the 2MK team. We're not having a lot of talking today. In fact, this particular section of the stream is going to be quite quiet. But just letting you know that I am in fact going to be on sometime later, so check back in 20 minutes.
Round 1. Fight! Round 2. Fight! Final round. Fight! You lose. Round 1. Fight! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Useless! Let's go! Get that! Let's go! There you go! Let's do this. Round one. Fight! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Go to sleep!
Alright then, that was something.
Round two.
One of the hardest things about Zeku, which has been something that's been at least slightly being practiced, as Onirabbit has been helping us with that for a bit, is understanding how to defend against the character. Ninja characters in these games are usually hard to defend against as a general rule, because they'll figure out a way to get in better than most characters can. They have enough misleading ways to get closer that once they're in on you, one of the only things that saves you is the fact that you can minimize their damage using your V-reversal, or any other semi-invincible option that you can find that will not let them just counter it. In Zeku's case, this is probably actually worth going for as a whole, even if you're likely to be baited and punished. Since he's not a character who can necessarily hit a lot of buttons and just get away with it when really close, as he doesn't have the correct, let's call it correct, style of pushback, and his anti-airs on most of his forms don't work that well when we're talking about the potential for you to just neutral jump or forward jump over his head to escape certain types of thing. He's also not great at all at chasing backdashes. He's good at hitting you, but he doesn't actually chase you. If you manage to get yourself into the correct position, the backdash is almost a guaranteed damage reduction, if not an outright escape. So, you don't really need to spend too much time thinking about it. With that amount of defensive options, you don't really have to spend too much time close to Zeku at all. Your main focus should probably be understanding that you don't need all of your resources to actually do damage. He's not a squishy character by any means, but he tends to put himself in positions and situations where you can definitely get more out of it. And he doesn't tend to get as much out of his invincible move, Uppercut.
Round two.
Meaning that a lot of the time, all you really want to do against Zeku, once you've learned how to manage him in neutral and get in if you have to in his zoning form, is when he's too close, just get him off you. It doesn't really matter which option you use to do this. If you're in the middle of the screen, you have more options, since you can both backdash and standardly fight him. And of course, doing things like back throw will keep you in the middle, making it even easier to stay where you need to be. In fact, he's another one of those characters where we'd say in general, your goal is to not be at the position he wants to attack, and generally ensure that you don't get cornered too quickly. Unfortunately, it's kind of hard for some people to do both of these things at the same time.
It's go time.
Okay, they're continuing. Good.
Let's do this.
And we'll have to do one more aspect of it. It definitely wasn't an issue of not being able to do the escapes in that particular match. but rather simply not being able to focus on both sides of the fight at the same time. Since Zeku does always make you deal with all of the options you could possibly deal with, you always have to be ready to anti-air, you always have to be ready to block, and you always have to be ready to hit him out of moves while standardly moving. The only thing you generally don't have to worry about is that he'll overwhelm you in footsies. But even that becomes possible when the specific Zeku player has put enough pressure on you that you're distracted. Another good reason to make sure that you just use your V reversal whenever you feel it's a good idea, because most characters who are like this are not good at baiting the V reversal into getting the throw. So here we see a relatively good flow to this match, where Dwarf is managing to mostly stay centralized in the screen, not take too much damage in the meantime, and specifically watch for things that Zeku is doing and reduce damage taken. Understanding all of the various escapes you need in order to make this work can be a little bit rough, but at least at that point you're learning standard things and not actually pushing yourself all that hard to understand the matchup in total. For example, right there, most of the time what you want to do when Zeku has gone into the air in that position is just backdash. He will sometimes still hit you with the kick, but he often hits you with just the very end of it. You don't generally want to back jump because of the way that causes you to end up being knocked down. It's not a great look for you most of the time, but overall, for example here, getting back to the center of the screen is probably a better idea than actually fighting all that hard. Fortunately, the Wolf did the whole thing well enough that the outcome was, hey, I'm back at the center of the screen anyway because you had to send me there. It's similar to how sometimes you have to fight Alex and G. Make sure that you've got enough control of the situation and that you then get thrown about and controlled in ways that your opponent is not expecting to happen. The better the player, the more likely you are to lose anyway, obviously, but in general, they're going to get tired. Playing heavy offense Zeku is not necessarily frustrating, but it is definitely a tiring thing to do when your opponent is too on the ball.
Round one. Fight.
Since the Kali as a character isn't really all that stressed out by Zeku's movement, and can usually keep him at bay once the timing's right, the only thing you really need to focus on is the backdash. The best thing about it is that if you are expecting it and backdash early, Nikali can backdash and then actually still uppercut and stop him in time. Since the character is relatively easy to get through the zoning of with the two characters we're seeing today, I'm not expecting a whole lot of problems from that regard. But there, that was a lost condition primarily because Nikali was not thinking hard enough about the fact that the situation being created of Zeku being close is so universally bad that it was best to just use the V reversal immediately. This character opening you up is what you care about. You're not going to necessarily get devastated in neutral, you're not necessarily going to get torn apart in any other position, but what you really want is to not have that happen to you. Once that sequence begins, understand that Zeku really doesn't have that many things that he can do that will force you to take damage if you V-reversal. In fact, the more characters you play, the more you understand about this flow as a generality. Unfortunately, regardless of what else is going on, our Nakali is likely to find some difficulty in focusing on this and still managing to keep up a proper offense flow. So you get the things like the, okay, I've hit you off, I'm doing this guidance now because I'm expecting you to come back. And it is a perfect adaptation, although I don't really think of it as one, from Zaku players that once they are knocked off, don't move immediately. There's no benefit to it. A frustrated opponent will come to you, and a not frustrated opponent, by not coming to you, will usually give you the chance to transform into your zoning form. It's a really easy form of Zaku mastery, I could say. You simply put yourself in a position where your opponent definitely wants to knock you away, and as soon as they do it, change to your zoning form and see if you can knock them down. If you can knock them down, change back and proceed. This is even easier when you choose V-Skill 1, but in this case, V-Skill 2 is an almost automatic use of your zoning form. You don't actually have to go through the trouble of transforming to have an option that prevents your opponent from rushing straight at you. Similarly, it's even better because if your opponent gets too defensive, they'll still be under the same pressure from the V-Skill 2, and you can just stay in your attack form and try to get in using the timing for it. This again depends a lot on the opposing character though. Cammy similarly runs into the same problem. She has to care a lot more about defense than anyone is normally used to doing in this matchup. But he will not let you do things. The entire point of this type of character is that he won't let you do things. So if you find yourself not able to focus on your defensive options, you will just die. The useful thing is that Cammy is much better at this than Nakali in that regard. She only needs to focus on her defensive options. She only really needs to go, I'm backdashing, I'm V-reversaling. Other than that, she can just safely walk forward through almost everything he does. The only difference is that she is the only character I can think of in the entire game that has exactly the range of V-reversal that you don't want to use when he's at his middle range.
You lose.
But this is fine, because you don't care. If he's at his middle range, you just backdash again. Because he cannot hurt you anymore. And once you have backdashed, especially if he is in his offense form, he can't actually chase you quickly enough to be a problem. For characters who have slower backdashes, this is a problem, but Cammy generally is fine and won't generally die. Your opponent is generally hoping and waiting for you to make a mistake that they can capitalize on based on her having low health. But aside from that, it's really not that difficult. There, for example, you saw the beginnings of an attempted chase that Materman probably assumed needed to be done for precisely that reason.
Round 2. Fight.
Since he doesn't have to play footsies, you don't have to focus on that aspect of the game either. He will eventually care because he can do enough stuff in footsies that you don't have perfect options, but she is a stronger footsie character as a generality, so you don't really care. In fact, most of the time you're in the same position. As soon as you have gotten hit in footsies, you just backdash again, because you don't really need to do anything. He most likely has no follow-up, and is just hoping that you stand there long enough to get hit by his normal.
Let's do this. Round one. Fight! Round two. Fight! Zeku wins. Round one. Fight! Round two. Fight! Zeku wins. It's go time. Let's do this.
Allow me a moment to entertain you.
Round one. Fight! Round two. Fight! Let's go! Let's go!
Acceleration!
Let's go! You lose. Round one. Fight! Let's go! Let's go!
Zeku is also a character where Kami's powerful back medium punch anti-air comes in handy a lot, as he isn't terribly good at doing the style of zoning jump at the timing that would be likely to mess with you. A lot of the timings you'll see for those things are just he's overwhelmed you to the point where you won't anti-air. But if you're practiced enough at the anti-air, that matchup becomes relatively difficult for Zeku to just jump and mislead you in. He'll do other trickery to get that position where he can jump, but he's not really able to use it as just a standard advancing option. So, if you are playing it from the footsie side of Kami, and you have control of the mid lane in general, it's going to end up being a situation where Zeku is more likely to try to take the opportunity to transform back so that he can use zoning options, even though he's not terribly good at zoning Kami out. Mainly because if he does manage to make you mess up the sort of thing that is required, the little spiral arrows and the little setups that she can do as a result of you trying to transform or get a better position, then he can punish those fairly hard, and this is a good payoff if you're trying to just be a tricky character. But if you want to play him very safely and defensively, it's less likely to work out. A sort of similar thing happens with Necalli, but not quite the same, in that Necalli isn't so good at the anti-air part, except if you're doing the jump medium punch. The jump medium punch can be done in really, really easy timings though, for Necalli has a particularly good one. I believe you can basically hit it the moment you go into the air, and it stays active for so long, combined with the way that Zeku normally extends his hurt boxes when attacking, that you don't generally have to care. In fact, it's probably because of this that you will definitely see less jumps in this matchup, because not only is it more so guaranteed that Necalli will manage the uppercut without otherwise messing himself up, it's also likely that if you didn't get that to happen, the jump medium punch will still beat you out often enough that you don't actually benefit from jumping too much. Using the rush, therefore, is probably among your better options, but of course, people who have trained against our Zeku bot for long enough are unlikely to easily fail against this move. So it's at least risky. It's not a useless move by any means, because perfect responses to Zeku rushes have to do with understanding what the momentum and mindset of the player is, more so than being able to actually react in total to the rush. But you can be pretty late in terms of what you will and will not do, meaning that you can spend more time thinking it through, and if you think your opponent is going to stay in that mode, just remain calm and neutral as long as you can. Necalli in particular, again like Kami but not quite the same, at least has an option for I'm just crossing the screen immediately on reaction to you attempting your transformation. And if the reaction is quick enough, then you will just hit him. It won't necessarily do a lot of damage, but you are in a useful situation because you will have set up probably Zeku's worst outcome, having switched to zoning mode but then having an opponent that was too close to actually zone. Another situation where most likely the V-reversal or the backdash would have saved both, but with neither of those things, you're just not going to manage anything. You'll probably get shredded in one way or another because that's the character. This is actually why he's not quite as terrifying at high levels, mainly because players at high levels will not, it's not that they won't fall for his stuff or take the damage, it's that they make the opposing Zeku work so much harder to get near that damage. That, for example, was, okay, I should just quote-unquote forward dash because my opponent is attempting to cross me up or to go for this trick or that trick. Movement is usually the key. But the main thing that higher level players will do to you is just set that situation up beforehand and technically make it disadvantageous for the Zeku player to even keep their offense going, which is really dangerous for them. But at the end of the day, this is a matchup about managing stress, and that's partially why the bot is the way it is. You're aiming to learn to keep your mindset constantly fluid without getting too stressed out about it.
Let's do this.
So we're probably going to see quote-unquote more of the same here. In order to not get stressed out, you have to have a fairly constant feeling of what the opponent is planning to do, or at least an understanding of their options. Because Zeku has so many options, the core of it is almost always to stay calm. Once you do take a hit, recognizing how to respond to that hit is simply a matter of backdash or not.
Round one. Fight! Round two. Fight! You lose. Round one. Fight! Let's go! Go! Round two. Fight! Let's go! You lose. Let's do this. Round one. Fight! Round two. Fight! Go! Now watch and learn! This it! Let's go! Let's go! Zeku wins. Round one. Fight! Round two. Fight! Let's go! Let's go! Get that! Zeku wins.
Alright then, and moving on to our Lucia, it's the same thing. She's not as good at avoiding the problem of being zoned out. In fact, I feel like Zeku generally wins in this matchup when it comes to zoning capacity.
Fight!
And she doesn't have a lot of really great ways of holding the situation down other than doing this. If she gets a good start, she can move up on Zeku, but since you generally don't want to do that either, there's not a lot to focus on. She's also very susceptible to getting herself into trouble for approaching in the same way that Cammy is. So, making sure to get out of bad situations is really important. Unfortunately, using her V trigger normally doesn't really lead to much in the matchup, and it doesn't lead to much otherwise either. As in, it doesn't convert into big damage most of the time if you're using V trigger too. So, all it really does is give up your options for the V reversal, which don't necessarily matter. It's not that you should never try, but it doesn't come up often enough to be a great plan. One of her bigger benefits, though, is that this matchup is a relatively easy one to get to use her V skill, which will allow her to build up much more V reversal than many other characters, making it doubly hard and forcing the Zeku player, if they really want to get any good damage, to make some form of setup to get around the many V reversal options. Someone who's skilled enough to actually do the option select style things on the bait, they're not true option selects, this game has basically none of those, but confirmable things, shouldn't generally have too much trouble breaking through her ability to V reversal often, but it's not going to help a lot. Simply because the only thing he'll get off of it is throw damage, and Zeku doesn't get a whole lot after throws. In fact, you've seen him get multiple throws, and generally they don't lead to anything too devastating. She does, however, lack a really good anti-air to deal with his stuff. Obviously she can use her main one, but it doesn't tend to lead to much. If anything, it's much more likely she'll be baited than most other characters. Fortunately, it is at least one of those things that autocorrects and hits both sides, so it's relatively easy to use if you believe your opponent is just going to go for tricky pressure close to you. Might as well do it. The backdash is less effective in this matchup than other things, but because she has that great heavy kick and can set up fireball stuff after it, she doesn't care as much. As you can see, it results in Zeku spending a lot of energy, but because he generally is able to build it up without too much effort, it's not really that he's paying a big cost here. He'll generally survive fine.
Zeku wins. It's go time. Let's do this.
Allow me a moment to entertain you.
Round one. Fight! Round 2. Fight!
Let's go!
You lose. Round 1. Fight!
Let's go! Kill you!
Round 2. Fight! You lose. Let's do this.
Let's party! If you think you can keep up.
Round 1. Fight!
Too slow!
Zeku wins. Round one. Fight! Round two. Fight!
Here we are with our possibly last on-stream round of the night. Definitely match. And Dolph is probably more so tired than easily able to overwhelm Meter Man here, but you never know. Problem is too much meter and not enough use for it right now. So there's something that also comes up in this matchup a lot. If you don't have an invincible move to use your meter on, catching Zeku to put your meter into use can be really difficult. If you're one of those characters who's blessed with having a metered option that specifically extends a combo or makes it easier to do something that you couldn't normally do before, in terms of a confirm, then that's usually the best place to focus that energy. He's probably not going to let you land or confirm super, and most of the time you're not really safe just walking up to a meter like that, so as shown. You can find our Zeku bot at our website 2-mk.org. He's a little bit tricky to input because of a specific timing, but honestly you can just leave that out entirely if your ideal is to train against someone like this who isn't doing a lot of wall jump stuff or constant transformation. So overall, I'd say give that a shot, and we'll see you probably next week. We don't know what types of content we're having this week, if any, other than maybe King of Fighters. So you can expect that we'll probably be a little bit lower on general gaming for this week, and possibly even the next one. But that brings us to the end of our Mish-Mashing Battle Lounge for tonight. This has been Rillian. Thanks for watching, everyone. Good luck with your training, and good night.